Hey guys, welcome back. Another awesome episode of Mind Split
Mhm.
Cafe. And Chris, how you doing today?
Not too bad, man. Glad you're
Yeah.
taking the wheel today. My head hurts a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's all good. All good. And you know what? It's going to be a great episode because we have the fabulous Amanda Kaine back for a second episode back to back. So Amanda,
Yeah.
welcome to the show again. How are you doing?
I-
I'm good. How are you guys today?
Oh, we're great. We are fantastic. And
I'm excited for part two. I mean, you just blew us away for part one, so
yeah,
this is
Oh,
gonna be great.
and Amanda, I we talked off camera, and I told you, well, one, how awesome you are, how blown away I was with your first episode, but it wasn't until after the episode, and I was kind of told a little bit more about your history, and that's what I was really amazed with because I kind of want to talk about what what event, not the event itself, but what event in your life kind of springboarded you to the milestones and the accomplishments that you've accomplished in such an early fashion. And if you go back and listen to episode 1, you'll hear that she graduated high school at 16. She graduated college at like 17 and a half. And I exaggerate, right? But you definitely you've definitely achieved these milestones rather quickly and quicker than most people, right? Your retention for knowledge. I could go on and on about your accolades, right? But you grew up in Parkland, Florida, correct?
yes, I did.
And so what, I mean, again, you don't have to talk about the event itself, but I'm just I am just like just amazed what happened to you and then what happened to you after that, right? So kind
Yeah.
of talk about what happened, what event I'm talking about, and then we can kind of talk about how you cope and how you've accomplished the things that you've accomplished, because that's the real heart of the podcast today.
Yeah, yeah. And I think to preface to everybody, I think going through any like hard event in your life, even though like at the time it seems really hard, um, coming out of it and seeing like the light on the other end is like to such a milestone in life to be able to overcome such a hard thing in life. And
Agreed.
yeah, just to overcome something, it makes you stronger, even if it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like it
Yeah.
at the time. Um, but
Before you
yeah,
start, I don't mean to interrupt, but before you start, I just want to tell you that you're in a comfortable space and that I am really proud of you. And I've only known you for like 2 weeks, but I am such a huge fan of yours, and
oh,
I
thank you.
and I root for you and I cheer for you, and I really appreciate you kind of talking about finding that light at the end of the tunnel after such, everybody has this traumatic, not this particular traumatic event, but everybody has traumatic events in their life. And you are just a beacon of hope because what you've accomplished after yours, that's what really amazes me. So please continue. I'm just a fan.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I grew up in Parkland, like you said, very small town. Until February 14th, so Valentine's Day, we had a school shooting in our community.
Mm-hmm.
Very hard, obviously, to go through
Of
something at
course.
that young of an age and not even know what that is to even experience. Like you just learn about it and or see it in movies and
And
you learn about
how
how to
old were you?
compare.
Yeah, how old were you when February 14th happened that day?
I was 13 or
Third,
14. Yeah,
Oh
13.
wow.
yeah. So you were prepubescent, like you were going
Yeah.
through other things. You were going through life, being an eighth grade, young
Just
lady, like
understanding what life was.
yeah, you were
Yeah,
just trying to
exactly.
figure out life at this moment. So okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, so that occurred on that
Mm-hmm.
day. I was in eighth grade. My sister was a senior in high school. Um, and unfortunately I lost a good friend and very hard to witness something so tragic that could occur like in life. Like you never even
Mm-hmm.
think of these events that could happen and happen to your community.
Yeah.
And to be like not even known as a city in Florida to everybody knowing. And the first thing when you say where you're from, everybody's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," for years.
Yeah.
Um,
To
it's
have it
really
hit so
hard.
close to home, like
Yeah.
you know.
But I will say our community correlated tremendously. We had such good like connections and we had all these events advocating for gun violence. I even went to March for Our Lives in Washington, D.C. When I was a freshman in high school, and incredible experience to be able to advocate for something that we just went through such a hard time and then to fight for change to make this never happen to anybody else.
Yeah.
Um, is incredible to be able to do that. And the people that went on to law school and to do that because of this event is just incredible because they had that experience of going through such a traumatic
Yeah.
event in their life.
Or
And then,
graduate high school at 16, like,
well, I mean,
and
I'm not going to law school, but
yeah, but you
You're going to
graduated
medical
high
school
school and you
though.
yeah,
graduated college 2 years later, right? So by the time you were 18 and a half, whatever it was, like you were graduated from college already. So I think, like we talked about off air, and you had kind of mentioned it, you know, was this one of the, did this kind of spur, like, accelerate your reason to get out of Parkland? Or like, because
yeah,
understandably some people could get stuck, some people
yeah.
could be in that day for years, right? And you
Yeah.
kind
And
of
it,
went the other direction and kind of like, I gotta do something different, right? Kind of talk about that.
And I want
yeah.
to piggyback one other question that you can add into there. Is this what springboarded you into wanting to become a physician as well? And you can add that in there to your answer.
Yeah, so kind of the answer is twofold. I think that the event itself kind of triggered a change within me. I mean, I've experienced like hard things in life prior to
Of
that, like
course.
my parents got divorced and like things that children and teenagers go through, but nothing like that
Of course
to
not.
go through. And after that I got really sick. And I stopped eating and I was just really sad and I wasn't doing well. So I was in the hospital a lot. I went to the emergency room a lot. And from that moment, that's when I was like, okay, I need to kind of get my life back together. And I actually took a lot of time off of school because I was really sick. So my freshman year in high school, I was out of school for like 5 or 6 months and just doing online school because of how I had to
Yeah.
regain my health and get
Coping,
better.
and yeah, exactly. You
Um,
needed kind of that mental, you needed like that mental break, right? You just
yeah,
needed to do what you needed to do for Amanda, right? And
yeah, at the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Yeah. And from that, I was really like borderline. There was actually a moment that I wrote about in my personal statement to medical schools that really was like, wow, like this is my aha kind of moment. Like I need to fight for my own life. I was really sick and the doctor was I was actually going to get an endoscopy because I was having all these stomach problems. And the doctor was like, I think he thought I was sleeping, but I was not sleeping yet. And he was talking to the other doctors and he was like, I don't know about like doing this on her. Like, I think she's gonna like she could die. Like she's
Oh,
really
wow.
bad. And
wow,
just hearing those words like you could die before you go under and like have like just hearing that, like I'll never forget it. Like that's something that I think will stay with me throughout my entire career operating as a future surgeon, hopefully one
mm-hmm.
day.
Yeah, no
Um,
kidding.
but I think that moment was like, wow, like I need to get better. I need to start eating again. I need to regain my life. And from that, that's kind of what like sprouted or birthed the moment of I want to be a physician. I want to fight for my life. I want
That's
to fight for
beautiful.
others. And from that, and I think just accumulated with the experience I went through at in high school was kind of like my moment of let me graduate things early. And I realized that life is really short to live every day to your last because you never
Yeah,
know.
you
Um,
never know. Yeah.
and I think also just kind of to add to that, by doing like living your life every single day by being with those you love and telling everybody how much you love them all the time because again you never know when it could be your last day.
Now, I'm curious, but do you take the time Like, how is your relationship with your family? You said your parents are divorced, and I don't know when they got divorced, pre or post, whatever, but they're no longer together. But your sister kind of went through the same event that day, right?
Yeah.
Like, as well as your parents did, because they've got both their kids in the school, right? But do you guys, is there like a bond that you guys internally have with each other? Like, do you tell your sister every day? Do you like, hey, like, I love you, like, what kind of, do you kind of swallow the medicine that you're prescribing, right? I'm just curious.
Yeah, my sister and me after were really, really close. Like, I mean, we're still very close, but I think
Yeah.
after all of us were like my friends, my sister, my family, we all just were so close. We didn't ever want to like leave each other's side. After we were
Mm-hmm.
just so like we just never wanted to leave each other. We loved each other. Obviously, we still love each other so much.
Yeah.
But we did. We told each other we loved each other every day, every 5 minutes. But I think then you also come to this point in your life where you just have to live. Like you just need
Yeah.
to live every single day. Regardless. You know, like live it to your fullest, yes, but don't have that worry all the time of like this could be my last day. Of course it can be, but you don't need
Yeah,
to think
it can
about it,
be. Yeah.
right?
Like, I could have a heart attack on the show right now, and that would be it. And the recording would go
That
on
would not be
forever
good.
because yeah, no,
Yeah,
exactly. Well,
no, it
you're about to
wouldn't.
be a physician, so you could call 911 or treat me, but and I make light of the situation, but you're exactly right. Like, you not just you personally, but myself and anybody in this world, time is not guaranteed, right? And so,
Exactly.
you know, I'm curious to know, like, obviously you were propelled to do, the things that you've done in an accelerated fashion because you either didn't want to be at the school because it triggered, or you wanted to like realize that time was short, so I just want to get things done quickly. Whatever the case is, you've accomplished great things at such an early age. um do you feel, and this is no pun intended, right, but do you feel like there's like you're a survivor that got out of the quote unquote mud, right? You've gone on and you've accomplished things, and there's some classmates that you had that maybe kind of are still stuck, right? Do you have some sense of like a survivor's remorse that, like, hey, I've gotten past it, how come you can't? Like, if that makes sense. Is it
I
something
think,
that
I mean, I think everybody kind of copes and grapples with things at their own rate and in their own way too, of course. Like the way that I dealt with the situation of restricting myself with eating and kind of
yeah.
like taking control in that aspect of my life. I think that was the wrong way, obviously, to go about it because I got super sick after. And
Mm-hmm.
my friends didn't like a lot of people, that's not how they coped. They coped in other ways. And I think people just cope in different ways. And I'm not saying one way is right and one way is wrong.
But it was best for you. Yeah.
But and I think looking back, I don't have regrets of like graduating earlier, doing this thing,
You
but I do
shouldn't.
wish that I appreciated the time a little more going through like all these steps in my life, like
Yeah.
taking time to, go out in college and do things that
Girl,
were
that was only
fun.
Be a
girl,
kid.
that
Be
was
a
only two
Yeah.
teenager.
weeks ago. What are you talking about? You
No.
like you graduated high school, college, and medical school in like 3 weeks. That was last month. I don't know what you're talking about, Amanda. Like, no, so
Oh, it's funny. But I will say, like, to take the time to actually enjoy things along the way too, because to look back and you want to be able to say, like, I did live it to the best of my ability. Like I lived the moment. I didn't just like try to rush through. I think
yeah.
my idea was, okay, well, life is short. I just got to keep going and, keep going, keep going. But I wish I said, life is short, yes, but to appreciate everything that like comes along the way. And like every
Yeah.
accomplishment, I don't think I didn't give myself any credit for. Like I graduated my master's, I was like, yeah, it's whatever. Like,
Yeah.
like I think to
Check. Yeah, you
appreciate,
marked that, you
yeah,
checked that box, right? And
yeah, it was
so
just like the check of the box of okay, like I did my EMT this fast and I worked and I just saved a life. Oh my God, but I just feel like nah, it's fine. Like it was just my job, right? But to give
yeah.
yourself credit for like the things that you do along the way, because I think that you're only going to like keep going up in life, but to look back on everything that you've done, you want to say like, wow, like I did that, like to give yourself like
To appreciate
self-confidence.
it a little bit.
Yeah, it's
Appreciate
kind of
it.
that
Yeah.
analogy, like stop and smell the roses, right? Like
Yeah.
understand the moment that you're in and appreciate the moment that you are in, you know, and
Yeah.
just give yourself a little bit of, you know, just like,
Credit.
all right, hey, wow, look back at what all I've done. You know, I think
Right.
whether you were in a tragic event like, you know, the Parkland event, or whether, you know, you had some other, and I'm not saying you particular, but I'm just talking in generalities. Like, I think a lot of people don't do that in a sense. I know I personally don't. I've accomplished things and I don't give myself enough credit for. You know, I'm just like, it's not enough, or I need to get to that next box, or you know, whatever.
Right.
So
Imposter syndrome.
and oh,
Imposter
definitely,
syndrome, exactly.
Yeah,
definitely there's
100%.
imposter syndrome. I suffer from it. I'm self-diagnosed, and yeah, I definitely suffer from imposter
So you're a
syndrome.
doctor already. I mean, you don't even need
Yeah.
to go to med school. You're just
Oh yeah,
self-diagnosed.
yeah, I got chat GPT. Like, it's
The
cool.
You got
podcast
chat
doctor.
GPT.
Yeah, I
You
got
got the
chat
position on
GPT.
right on
Yeah,
your
so
computer. It's funny.
yeah, so and there's WebMed, you know, so it's all
There
good.
is
But
WebMD. Yeah.
yeah, so um you know, I don't give myself enough credit for it. But you know, like we kind of talked about off air, I was in the when I was an athlete in college, and I played collegiate basketball, and I played a little bit of pro. The stigma for athletes was like, even if you're having a bad day, or you know, I would, looking back, I'd had stress attacks or anxiety attacks, or you know,
Yeah.
whatever. And it was kind of like what we were all going through. So it was like, okay, this is just a day, I'm dealing with it, right?
Dust yourself
Right.
off and move on.
The stigma was there in a negative fashion, like, you're not mentally well, like what, like you can't be at
Mhm.
the peak of your game if your head's
Right.
not right. So you didn't want to let anybody know that you're not doing okay. And
Right.
now
Mhm.
it's changed, right? We talked about this earlier. Like, i think I think people that have come to the forefront, like athletes, or you know, 20-year-olds that have graduated with 2 master's degrees, high school, by the age of 16, and gonna be, you know, gonna be a doctor by the time she's 26. Like, I think people, I think the world needs advocates like you know,
Um,
especially somebody that's coming from such a public event or a
yeah.
public tragedy
Right. Yeah. No,
that
I
you came
think,
from.
yeah, I mean, people have I think it's definitely, you're right. Like to have something that you go through that is so public that, people know about just from where you say you're from, right?
Yeah.
So, and then the aspect of undergoing stress, and I think in any career and anything in life could cause stress, but actually dealing with it and taking the time to not just like shove it off or dust it
Yeah.
off and say it's fine. And I'm not saying wear your heart on your sleeve, but to really like address like what's going on, because it will just build up and build up, and then the bottle's so full you can't handle it.
Now,
Um,
in episode 1, you said you like to dance, and that was
mhm.
kind of a stress kind of release for you, right? Um, is there anything else, like, I mean, where did you get that from? Did When you were a kid, and I say that kindly, right? Because you're still 21 years old, right? I'm damn near 50, but
Almost 20.
yeah,
Almost 21.
almost
Yeah.
20. Yeah, almost 20, right? She just got her driver's license, ladies and gentlemen. So no, I'm kidding. But and I kid, I'm sorry, Amanda, but like,
No, it's funny.
was there, as a young adult, right? Or a teenager, whatever, were you given tools, like from counselors or from people that, you know, you, from when you were going through EMT school, or whatever, like, or when you were volunteering, like, were you given tools that maybe somebody else wasn't kind of privy to? Like, kind of talk about, because again, that's such a traumatic event. You were such at a young age, and you were at an age that it was so influential, like you could have gone either way.
Very much.
And you didn't. You came out like accelerated, like, hey, full steam ahead. I'm just gonna get the hell out of here and do this. Like, kind of talk about the tools that you were kind of given from after that event.
Yeah. I think a big thing is finding a safe place. I till this day, I think like just having a safe place wherever it is, maybe it's the gym, maybe it's like for me when I was younger, it was the dance studio where I would go to with my
Okay.
friends, or somewhere that you can go to like when you need to de-stress or just like sit and be alone or listen to your favorite song or whatever it may be. I think everybody has different like ways of coping. Some,
Mm-hmm.
again, some healthy, some not healthy, right? But
Yeah.
right, there's going to be a mix. Not everything in life's a balance.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing I've like learned was like the aspect of just like sitting with your emotions and to like address it. I think
And letting
that's
them
just
out.
the biggest thing. Yeah. And having somebody in your life that you can go to consistently that will always be that like person for you. And I'm very grateful that my family has been a constant in my life. My friends are incredible. And just having the support around you to be there for you like when you need it, I think is really important.
I was gonna assume your safe space was the library, girl, because all
I
you
mean,
do is retain knowledge.
yeah,
You're in the library right now, I'm assuming. Like
study
you
rooms.
probably have a room in the library with your like
With their
name
name on it and
on like a
everything.
I
nameplate.
have
Like,
a little like desk that I always sit at, and yeah,
yeah,
it's like a
like this
safe,
is
it's
the
like my safe desk.
yeah, this is the Amanda Kaine study room. Like, and if you don't have one, we're gonna talk to Fody and get you one, right? So shout out to Dr. Fody, right?
Oh my gosh.
But
And I'm glad you. I just want to jump in there, and I said I'm glad you brought up the fact that there's good ways and bad ways of dealing with the emotions, and even just finding a way to deal with the emotions. Because Matt knows my story, and I won't go too much into it, but I went through some struggles with mental health, and I dealt with them. I chose to deal with them the absolute incorrect way to do it, and it imploded my world. And I have found an outlet, my safe place of expressing my feelings and emotions instead of bottling them up. And that's why we have Mind Split Cafe today. Is I found an outlet to expressing my feelings and getting them out versus bottling them up and dealing with them the way that I used to. And I'm
mhm.
glad you brought that up.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I'm so glad you're able to be here and you found a way to like express. And I think everyone has their way. You just have to find it in life too. So that's incredible. Yeah,
It was
well,
a
I'm glad you're
little bit
here.
of trial and error, but we found a way. We found a way to cope with
Yeah,
it.
I mean, and again, I mean, you could go back and listen to past episodes, and Chris has kind of shared his story, but I'm thankful for him because when he came to me about this idea of this project and this podcast, he had he had something to say. He didn't have a voice, or he didn't know how to say it.
Yeah.
If that
Yeah,
mean, if you know what I mean. And so I think
yeah.
this is kind of given him the opportunity to kind of find that Amanda Kaine room in the library. And this is his
Right.
place where, okay, I know I've got to do an episode once a week, and it's becoming mine too, because I get to talk to amazing people like yourself, like
Oh,
Dr.
thank you.
Fody, um, like Dr. G, you know, um,
It's like
Dr.
a therapy
Weiner.
session.
Like there's so many, Murph, Jessica Murph. Like there's so many people that we've connected through this podcast that have helped me
Yeah.
tremendously. And so it's really cool that you said that, because looking back, if I'm smelling the roses right now on the episode, looking back, that's exactly what Chris has helped create with this podcast, and we've got great guests like you, and
Oh, thank you.
so
Yeah.
I think your story is amazing. I think, again, I said this in the first episode, in your first episode, that I think you are going to achieve great things. And regardless of the event that happened, you were destined to do these things anyways. But I think that you were just an amazing person for doing them aside from what happened to you. You're not giving yourself an excuse like, oh, I could have graduated college at the age of 18, but this happened. Like, no, you went out and you did it. And there's a lot of talkers in the world, and there's a lot of doers. And you,
Yeah.
Amanda Kaine, are a doer.
Well, thank
100%.
you. I think
Use it
that
as a
also,
springboard.
oh, thank you. I think a big thing too is like experiencing failures, because I've experienced many in my life, and having
You're
like the
21.
courage.
Like, what are you talking about?
I mean, like failures in like in whatever way, right? Like if you have a goal and you don't achieve it, and
Agreed.
then you try again, right? No
Yeah.
matter big, small, educational, personal, whatever it may be, professional.
Yeah.
But going after it again and like keep going, even like despite the failure, I think that's what's gotten me to like where I am today. Because if I just gave up, I wouldn't be sitting in New York. So I think that too for
Agreed.
listeners, like regardless of how many times you fail, it's not really about that. It's more about the progression to get to the where you
How
want to
many
be in
times you get
life.
up? That's what it's about.
Exactly.
You know that
I
saying, like,
yeah.
It's the
fall
truth.
down 7, get up 8, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Took me
you know.
many times to get my 5 pirouettes in when I was in dance. So and my backflips and my
Or-
aerials
or your
without
2
the
master's
hands.
degrees by the time you're 20. Like, come on, like, really? Like, so again, Amanda, I know that I'm kidding, and I'm trying to make you smile, and I just really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, and it's one of tragedy, but it's also one of triumph. And I am so proud of you, and I'm amazed by you that you continue down the paths of triumphancy and not tragedy. So,
Thank you so much.
yeah. All right. Anything
Well-
else, Chris? That was
that
this
was a good
episode.
one. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
a great part 2, but I want to give you the floor. Is there anything that you want to say? Is there anything you want to add in for the listeners? I know you have a wealth of knowledge, so I mean, drop it on them. Let us know what you want to say.
Stay away from her safe spot in the library. That's
yeah, don't go.
Yes,
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess talking about the other one, take care of yourself. Be there for the people in your life, because like reciprocate the love that you get in your life too. And even if like just always give love, always spread kindness. Oh, you never know what somebody's going through. So just always be the best version of you that you can be, and do the best for the world, and try to be a light that the world needs.
Well, Amanda Kaine, you are that light that the world needs. And
thank you. You are too.
We wish you all the best, and come back. Don't be a stranger. When you graduate from your 3rd master's in medical school at the age of 22, then just let us know and keep us updated.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, you're welcome back anytime.
Till next week, guys. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye.